Do you work in the light or do you play in the dark? What is up, Alien Army? I am Oculus, the alien next door, purveyor of esoteric lore. And on this channel, we discuss everything out of this world. So today's topic, we are just going to be discussing a phrase that I coined a few days ago.
Actually, was it yesterday, the day before?
I don't remember when. It don't really matter. We've all heard of the term light worker, but now I present to you the dark player. The dark player is the antithesis of the light worker, and the question that I ask you, do you work in the light or do you play in the dark? What do I mean by this? If we want to take a look at the words, light worker, opposite is dark player, because the light worker is purported to be exuding some sort of effort to remain in the light, whereas the dark player is more nonchalant and they find most things to be a game. They're just having fun with it and they are not afraid of the dark. This is not to say that the light worker is afraid of the dark. This is not to say that the dark player is afraid of working in the light. However, what I personally have noticed, and remember, I haven't seen this written anywhere, so I don't know if you have, but this is just something that I legit came to me when I was channeling the term dark player. It is the antithesis of the light worker, but I always talk about poles. It's the same thing, different degree. You have work, you have play, and then you have light, and then you have dark. If you are someone who is inhabiting a physical vessel right now, obviously, if you're watching this video, I will go out on a limb to say that you are probably interested in the evolution of your own consciousness. You see things as more than meets the eye, and you are interested in elevating the vibrational frequency that you emit, and you are interested in perhaps metaphysics, occult, and all things of that nature, things that are not necessarily physically tangible. Before we get into today's video, I want to give a quick shout out to my sponsor and yours, your motherfucking intuition. What do I mean by this? You know that little sensation that you get that you know something, but you don't know how you know something, but you just know that you know something because you just know something? That, my friend, is your intuition. When your intuition guides you, you will always know it. You will always be steered in the right motherfucking direction for the betterment of yourself and everyone in every situation and experience that you can possibly have around you. That is what your intuition does. If you think about things logically, if you think about things from an emotional standpoint, good shit, but intuition takes the prize. Intuition, friends, that divine spark that just tells you move slightly this way, and then all of a sudden a bowling ball comes flying out of nowhere and it just missed where the fuck you were standing, but you had no idea why the fuck you even stepped aside in the first place. That is your intuition. Thank you, intuition, for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get back to the show. This is common in both the light worker and the dark player. However, the way that the two of these modalities,
I think that's the word, I'm not sure, but it is now.
The two of these modes, if someone is into spirituality and high vibration consciousness and interdimensional travels, they will typically be the same thing, different degree, but their natural set point would be predispositioned to be either closer to the pole of the light worker or closer to the pole of the dark player. So personally, and this is why I think this shit came to me, is because I've read things about light workers. I've been called a light worker and I'm like, I don't know if that shit really resonates with me, and this is most likely the reason why, because you know, the answers always come to you when you're not really looking for them, when you ain't seeking them out, they just present themselves. So I was presented with the term dark player, and the dark player for me appears to suit my modus operandi.
My primary mode.
My natural set point. Yeah, modus operandi. I don't know why the fuck I always say that brand. I don't think I've ever bought anything from that store, but modus operandi. That's what I'm just gonna call it. I know it ain't what it's really called, but The primary moda operandi for me leans more towards the dark player, where I'm okay with being in the shadow period. I'm okay with the little twilight zone. The shadow ain't bothering me, right? The shadow always gonna be there. It's just a matter of how the sun is shining, how the light is shining, how the shadow is going to be bore witness to. The light worker, because they are the same thing, I ain't saying that they're afraid of a shadow or that they don't find comedy in the collective consciousness or whatever that. It's just that their primary mode is more vanilla, whereas the dark is more taboo. So the dark is going to be someone who is considered maybe by those who are viewing them to be a little bit more edgy than the light worker. The light worker, just brief synopsis, is someone who might appear to be more approachable, and the dark player is someone who appears to be a little bit more like,
I don't know if I want to even go near that.
You're going to regard a dark player with more suspicion than you would a light worker. Not to say that a light worker can't be shady and a dark player can't be a good guy or whatever the fuck, but I think you know what I mean. These are just stereotypical examples. So let's get into some traits that I channel.
Do you play in the dark, or do you work in the light? That is the question. Darkness does not always have to be scary. Can you have a good time in the dark? Perhaps even the twilight hour? Can you have fun and trust in the darkness? Do you prefer to work by the light of day, going by what is tried and true and visible to you, what seems to have always worked before? You can do both, because they're the same things, different degree. You must understand, though, that one of the poles will naturally pull you towards it. Which pole are you most comfortable in gravitating towards? Are you more comfortable in the light or in the darkness? Do the unknown things in the dark strike fear within you? Or do the unknown things in the dark spark a curiosity within you?
Where you might feel that you are on a spiritual journey in this fucking vessel right now, which is so fucking amazing, but you might not really resonate with a fucking light worker stereotype. You might be more of a dark player. Here we go. Are you nocturnal? Okay, so obviously I had to fucking say that shit.
With the nocturnal for the Oculus with the 0 and the cube. Because why the fuck would I let that opportunity slip away?
This is a question that I ask of you. Are you nocturnal? Are you at home in the darkness?
Ambient lighting, perhaps the twilight hours.
Rather than the daytime. I am not saying that you can't be an early bird for certain things, but which one is more comfortable to you? Are you more inclined to be up at night during the witching hour, 3 a.m., whatever the fuck that is? Or are you someone who is an early riser? You get up with the roosters, so to speak. You will notice that you have a predisposition to gravitate towards one or the other. Obviously, everyone can do both, but for the sake of this video, do you prefer to be up at night or do you prefer to be up during the day? And the reason why the dark player is nocturnal, as conveyed to me, is because the dark player is not afraid of what is going on in the dark. They see better in the dark than they do by the light of day. They are more intuitive in reading between the lines, in seeing through the veils. They have a very amazing depth perception, not physical depth perception, not physical
Depth perception.
although they can, but they are more about that metaphorical depth perception. So this is literally someone that is reading between the lines, seeing through the darkness. It's like you're in a darkened room and there are shadows all over the place, but you're able to pinpoint exactly what the shadow is without really much of a thought. You just intuitively know that this is a chair with fucking clothes in it, that motherfuckers, I see memes that they're purportedly afraid of. In the darkness, your chair with clothes on it looks like fucking, I don't know, Frankenstein sitting there and shit. or you are someone who is, you're not necessarily going to take anything at face value if your intuition is alerting you to something that is lurking beneath the surface. You are someone who would trust something that is unseen, something that is in that nebulous kind of darkness, over what is physically presented to you. That is what I mean by nocturnal, as well as perhaps your sleeping pattern. Okay, this one is really like, I don't mean
well, I mean, maybe I can mean something by that.
what I'm talking about is, do you like it rough? Do you prefer to tell the truth as it is, with no fucking chaser, no salt on the fucking glass, no lime? Do you like it like that? Do you just take the whole shot? Or are you someone who wants to sweeten the pot and prefers the pot to be sweetened? What I mean by this is, obviously, as I said, the physical actions.
I'll let you use your imagination.
Do you like it rough, meaning metaphorically? Would you prefer someone to spit to you the blunt truth? This is what it is. It might be harsh, but you know what? We gonna blast through this today. We gonna get to the root of the fucking matter. Would you prefer someone to be that way with you? Do you prefer to behave that way around others? Now, I'm not saying that you are rude and you enjoy rudeness from others, but there's a way of being blunt and rough without necessarily coming off as rude, whereas a light worker will be more meandering around what the issue is. You, or someone you know, are more like, this is what it is, this is what I think. You know, obviously depends on what the situation is, but would you appreciate a harsh truth, or someone who is more taking their time to kind of coddle and sweeten up the drink a little bit before they hand it to you? Do you find
Serious topics.
to be absolutely motherfucking hysterical? Well, if you do, you just might be a dark player rather than a light worker. When you are someone who is gazing at the collective, at society, at the 3D shit, and you can find humor in almost every situation, even if it's a serious news story or some shit, or if it's a movie that is put out there in order to try to evoke or invoke,
I don't know which one, some just say both.
Evoke something.
out of the individual watching it. Like, if there's a movie that is supposed to have like a sad ending, that is something that is designed to evoke an emotion out of the audience watching it. Are you someone who can watch that movie that seems like it's supposed to be sad and you're like, that's just kind of fucking funny? Like, you can find the irony in pretty much everything. Are you someone that you are able to laugh at? This is a big one. Are you someone who is even able to laugh at things that have gone on or you have bore witness to in your own personal experience? Are you able to find the humor, the satire, the irony in every situation that presents itself to you? If you can find the humor in any situation, this is more of a fourth dimensional perspective.
How's that quote go? I don't even know who says it.
Man is miserable because he takes seriously what the gods know is fun. This is what I'm talking about. Can you find comedy in situations, even situations that are purported on the news to be so terrible, right? Because you're never going to know the whole fucking story of something unless you were there. And even if you were there, you're only going to know it from your own perception. So any type of thing, event, person, whatever, that you are bearing witness to, and it's supposed to be this way, like most of society finds it to be that way, but you see it in a fucking funny way, you just might be a dark player. Because remember, you see the dark humor in that, and it makes you feel playful, like you want to laugh. Do you enjoy raunchy, perhaps vulgar things that are taboo? So again, this is kind of like the B. If the trait that I mentioned was the A, this is like the B section of it. This is something about, are you more, this is going to sound really weird. Do you have a more of like a perverted way of looking at things? Like, can you pervert anything that you look at? Instead of seeing something at face value, what it is, like a piece of fucking cake can be innocent.
See, I don't know why I keep talking about cake. I think I used this in another video.
Whatever, maybe that's a message for someone, cake. When we are talking about the dark player, a piece of cake to you, you can twist it, you can turn it, you can pervert it. And the word pervert, I would suggest, if it behooves you, to look up that definition, because the word perverted has actually been perverted by society. The word perverted simply means looking at something in a way that it isn't there. It's sort of like twisty. It's like pretzel time up in this bitch, where you looking at a piece of cake and you're like, oh my god, that cream filling in the center, that reminds me. You get the idea, right? You get the idea. You're more raunchy, your mind is just going to the gutter. And even with spirituality, because remember, this whole topic is geared towards spirituality, I'm talking in general. Even from a spiritual nature, are you someone that you can laugh knowing that Jesus and Satan are the same thing? Can you look at shit like that and laugh? Or are you more like, let's just go with the tried and true, and because it's been written, and this is like you're more taboo in a way where you see things differently? And I'm not saying that you're the only one that sees things this way. You know, in your circle of peers, you might know others that can look at things this way, but it's more about, you can poke fun, you can pervert topics, heavy topics like religion or politics or things of that nature. You're more like, yo, that shit is fucking funny, rather than, oh my god,
buckle up and take this shit seriously because society says it's like a serious topic.
No, you're more like, look at that shit, look at that cake over there with that cream filling. That reminds me of some. Our motherfucker is typically intimidated by you. So this one is just basically going off of your general energy. It doesn't matter about if you're tall and buff and you look stereotypically intimidating. This is about energetic. You are someone who is oftentimes told that you look unapproachable, which is what I was saying in the intro of this video. Motherfuckers are kind of like, I don't know if I want to approach that. That looks like it might kill me or some shit. So you get typically told often that you appear intimidating, whether it's in a photo or in person, or if someone just sees you walking in the street from afar. You are told that you look intimidating. You don't necessarily look approachable, and this is because of your energetic output, the power that you are emitting versus the power that the light worker is emitting. Because remember, they're still the same thing, but you would be more naturally inclined to have an energy that is assertive rather than the light worker, who would be a more of a same powerful energy, but their energy would be more receptive. Like someone would be more likely to approach a light worker that they didn't know from afar, from a distance, wherever. Whereas like a dark player, it's like a motherfucker kind of looking at you and they're like,
well, I know that they got a strong energy because I feel that they got a strong energy, but
I don't know. What if I approach them and they fly off the fucking handles? This is the way that you energetically, if we want to think of like just the physical vessel, right? Then the soul's energetic output, consciousness, things like that. The light worker has a very strong energy, but they have it more like within themselves. It's sort of like an aura of protection for themselves, but it's still receptive to their outside environment. Whereas you, as a dark player, your aura is more assertive in its like pushing outward rather than just still or open. You don't appear like you're open. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, you just appear very shut off, very closed. You can be very outgoing and talkative, but you can still appear shut off and closed to others because your energy is really saying back up, stay away, stay away. It's like one of those things that you see on the big tractor trailers.
Keep your distance. I don't know what the fuck it says.
How does it say that? Wide turns or some shit? It's kind of like you have an energetic warning label, like, yo,
don't get too close now.
That's the best way I can describe it, because your energy is strong, just like a light worker, but only you're in that more masculine energy. And I'm not talking about no physical gender, I'm talking about energetically. A light worker would be more in a feminine energy, which is just, it's shielding itself to an extent, but it's also open and receptive to the outside more easily. Whereas you're someone with the masculine energy, you're just pushing. You're like, your energy is like pushing outward. So it's kind of like keep away, sort of like the opposite magnet that's going to repel. It's like someone tries to get near you, like, whoop, they're going to bounce off and shit. You have a lot of malefic activity in your birth chart. Here's one that I identify with just because I am into astrology. So if you're into like numerology or gematria or whatever, you know, there's other types of divination. I'm into tarot cards as well, things like that. This is what I personally have noticed in myself in looking at many charts over the years. Someone who I would consider to be a dark player would have more malefic activity in their astrological birth chart. What I mean by malefic activity is a predominance of the malefic planets that are very tightly wound together, meaning they just aspect each other, or they aspect a cardinal point such as the midheaven or the ascendant, or even the IC or the descendant. Also, a lot of 10th house or 8th house activity in the chart could be that as well. We are looking at Mars, Saturn, Pluto. We are looking at Uranus.
Don't even go there.
We are looking at, in some instances, the sun, just because the sun is a masculine planet, but I would say only look at the sun if he is in a tight situation with the other planets that I mentioned. So this is very simple. If you want to look at your chart and just observe these energies, that is something that I just noticed as a little tidbit, sort of like a bonus round, but we still have a few more things to cover, so let's progress along. Do you identify more with angels or demons? So this one I think is self-explanatory, but just because we're going to cover all the bases here, we will get into it. Now, I am not saying that a light worker cannot resonate with demons. I'm not saying that a dark player cannot resonate with angels, but you will notice that the interdimensional beings that you identify with, that you resonate with, they tend to be more of a demonic in nature. So just an example, I will give you Parvati. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. And Kali, again, not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but you have these two which are feminine nature in Hinduism. This is just an example. It doesn't have to be this, but this is just one example. It could be anything. Choose what resonates with you. Now, they're the same thing, right? But Parvati, she would be more along with a light worker. They would naturally gravitate more towards that type of energy, whereas a dark player would gravitate more towards Kali energy, but they are the same thing, different degree. The reason why is precisely what I described when I was talking about the energetic output. The light worker is still more receptive, still more open to their environment, whereas the dark worker, they are more wanting to change their environment. They are more having an effect on their environment, whereas the light worker, they are having an effect too, but it's sort of like a smoothing effect, right? You smooth it out, and the dark player would be more of a shake it up type of energy. The reason why is because demonic energy is more masculine driven, at least as conveyed to me. It's more assertive. Both are equally powerful, but just to different things. The angelic energy is powerful, but it's more open to accepting something from outside, taking that in, rather than the energy of the dark player or the demon, or like I said with Kali or Parvati. So you might notice that if you are having an affiliation, if you've always felt close to like a patron deity or whatever, you know, everyone is different, but if you notice more of the malefic energies, and we'll take that word again, more of the demonic energy just simply means that it shakes shit up, whereas the angelic energy, it smooths shit over. You might recognize that you have more of a demonic fan base, friends in the ethers, patron deities that you commune with, whatever, whereas a light worker is someone who is going to be more in the angelic realms, and they're going to have the same type of energetic friends in other dimensions, but it's going to be a different type of friends. And I'm talking about mostly what you mostly resonate with, because I'm sure you as a dark player have angelic friends in other dimensions and vice versa, but
You get what the fuck I'm talking about.
would you be considered crazy by normal societal standards? Alright, so this can go for the light worker too.
I don't know why I keep wanting to reiterate that.
I'm not saying that a light worker would not be considered to be crazy by normal society. It's just that the dark player is more noticeable in that arena. Their antics are more likely to be visible to the collective and anyone observing them, whereas the light worker, sure, someone who is a normie and they're only in 3D and they're like, what?
You communicating with beings in other dimensions? Yeah, okay, you're fucking crazy.
Not to say that they wouldn't think that about the worker as well, especially as coming from a normie state of mind. Let's say a light worker and a dark player both walk into a bar. Who the fuck is getting noticed first?
The dark motherfucking player.
You know why? For the reason that I just said. They are going to have a more of an eccentric vibe to them rather than the light worker, because the way they're carrying themselves, remember, as I stated, they are having more of that masculine, dominating, asserting energy. Equally powerful as the light worker is the dark player, is the light worker with the dark player, is the dark player with the light worker. But the dark player, just the way that they carry themselves, it's more forceful. So they both walk into a bar, a normie is fucking sitting there and he's like, oh shit, look at this crazy motherfucker, and neither of them opened their mouth or said anything, right? They're both wearing maybe the same type of thing, but the dark player, I guarantee you, is going to be noticed first as being crazy. And listen, I'm crazy.
I'm cool with it though. I love being crazy. Oh, I'm crazy. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Call me crazy all you want. So I'm not even saying this as like an insult or anything detrimental, right? I mean, if you've been called crazy, you're doing something right, because
That's some good shit.
Anyway, the dark player is just going to be carrying more of that energy themselves, where it's in a more noticeable manner rather than the light worker, because remember, it's all coming down to the same energy. The light worker likes to, especially because they are working in the light, they want any energetic output that they are putting into, it's more bettering themselves, seeing more of what's going on within themselves, but also being aware how they come off to the collective and their surroundings. Whereas the dark player, yes, they want to explore, they want to have fun in the dark, but remember all the other characteristics that I said.
Little pervert here.
Fucking twisty pretzel there.
Whatever the fuck, they're just gonna come off as more dominating, even though the two of them can be expressing the same energy, where a normie might consider both of them to be crazy. It's just the dark player, they are going to be noticed first, whereas the light worker, you might be like, oh, I didn't know you were a light worker. I mean, obviously, unless you knew them, right? But the dark player, it's just you're not gonna be able to shut that shit off. It's being more of like, okay, here's one that just
Thank you, universe.
Here's one that just came through, which kind of has to do with this. They both walk into a bar, light worker, dark player, and someone needs their fucking ass fucking handed to them on a silver platter. The light worker, they might sense that, but they're not going to say anything. They're not going to serve the ass to the individual who ordered it. The dark player, he gonna serve you that ass on a silver platter with 6 fucking spoons on one side, 4 forks over here. He gonna have a little cocktail fork, and he's be like,
here you go.
Because the dark player, the energy is just rougher. They are someone who is more just, a dark player is just going to come off as more of that type of edgy vibe to them, especially if a normie is observing them, because a normie is not going to really know about energy, but they are going to be able to pick up the dark player easier than the light worker, simply because the energy is pushing forward. So that's what I got for you today, exploring the light worker and the dark player. I am Oculus, the alien next door. We will chit chat again soon.